Hi, I'm Kirsty Morgan, and welcome to Evolving HR Doing Work Better. This is going to be a series of short conversations with people who are actually doing things differently in the world of work. I'm joined today by Adam Bell. And Adam, we're going to be talking about generational expectations today, aren't we? And the challenges that HR face when trying to work out what the best benefit packages are for organizations, and taking that kind of Gen X, Gen Z requirement into consideration. So do you want to just do a quick intro and then we'll get stuck into the topic?
Sure. Yeah, great. Thanks for having me on this, Kirsty. Really appreciate it. My name's Adam Bell. I'm a employee benefits consultant at Wingate Benefits Solutions. I've worked in employee benefits for just over 10 years now, which has been a real mix of where I started in like a large corporate insurance background, fell out of love with that and moved to a health and wellbeing startup for a few years. And now I work for a consultancy where basically I help HR leaders and business owners build benefits packages that I guess actually make an impact.
And I mean, this is something that I'm personally really interested in because I don't know, am I a cynic? I don't think I'm a natural cynic. I think spending 25 years working in financial services HR made me a little cynical, but people's attitudes towards benefits have always really surprised me.
Yep.
And it's the actual word benefit and whether it is seen as such by people. And I love that you want to talk about generational differences here, because there is a massive difference between what was important to my parents' generation, my generation, and like my nieces and nephews coming up into the workplace now. So what is something that you think that organizations think they're doing well in this space, but they actually aren't?
I would say especially in the larger space, organizations think that they've got benefits that hit every mark. They've got loads of stuff. So they've got like benefits, like a list of benefits as long as your arm. And they think, well, we've got a really strong benefits package. And I think that what it could be improved is the fact that it doesn't matter how many benefits you have if people don't connect with them, if you don't communicate them well, and people don't understand, why the benefits are there.
That's so true.
I think that's the biggest thing.
What sort of changes have you seen in terms of the different generations in the workplace and what's important to them and what is not? You could probably talk about this for hours, couldn't you?
Yeah. It's so interesting because I don't think the different generations in the workforce, we know that people have different expectations. The older you get, your outlook on life changes, and what you expect from work changes.
Yeah.
What you value changes. That's not changed. Like that's always been the case. Like the younger generations have a different attitude to the older generations. I think what's changed is what people expect from their employers.
Okay.
And what the workforce should be. Like if you think of like a Gen Z worker, someone might, coming out of university, going into work for the first time, they want a oat milk, gluten-free, vegan-based well-being initiative. And then you've got your Gen X, the people coming to the end of their working career who are like, I just need something for my knees. and
so that's given that I've been vegan for 8 years, so the oat milk thing would be right up my street as well. But no, God, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think about how my attitude personally has changed. So I'm 52 now, so I'm solidly in Gen X. Coming to the end of my career, unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. I'll probably be working till I'm 90. But when I first started work, and they'd start talking to you about pensions, you're like, yeah, okay, whatever, because it's like decades before I retire. And then there is a point where that becomes more interesting to you, absolutely. Same with private medical, and in reference to your knees comment, that would be pretty critical for me right now as an aging old fart, that, it's good to know that you've got that healthcare when you need it. And I certainly made use of things like physio and stuff like that over the years. How have attitudes changed towards things like, or have they, there's all the kind of extra bits that people do, because your fundamentals are pension and medical, aren't they? And then things like life assurance, things like that. But, you know, we've had cycle to work schemes and gym memberships and, you know, training budgets that you can go learn whatever you want. Is that changing for people? Are companies staying on top of what people actually want with that?
I think they're trying. Going back to what I said earlier around people just adding more stuff. I think that the employee benefits space is so crowded now. There are so many providers out there, some brilliant providers out there, but there is so much that any business could look at any one time. And I think businesses can be guilty of just, oh, let's just do that, let's do this, especially when you talk about like salary sacrifice stuff, because that stuff tends to be free for employers to put in. And therefore they're just like, oh, we're getting more benefits because it's free and, you know, staff will like it. But I guess it doesn't change the fact that is any of this actually going to resonate with anyone that we've got in our workforce? And I think it's important that in businesses are, you know, it's easy for me to sit on my high horse here and say, oh, you need to make sure your benefits are appealing to everyone in your workforce. And like you say, you've got those core products that you have to kind of have. And there are a lot more of these, like, what's the right word? Like the benefits that give you value almost straight away. And that's what businesses are like trying to put more in of now, I would say, is like, how do we give staff tangible rewards like today, not like some pension that's far off in the distance that no one cares about because they're young. How do we give them something now so that they feel like more valued at work and they stay with us, etc., etc. And I think that you have to find this blend of having those core products in place, because if you don't, you know, it creates risk within your business. I was talking to a business owner only last week, and he had got some of these nice new benefits in place, but hadn't got any of those protection policies in place. And then unfortunately, he's got a young chap who's been diagnosed with something horrible. And now he's saying, well, I don't want to stop paying him or pay him statutory sick pay because that's, you know, he needs to survive. His family needs to survive. So I'm going to carry on paying his wage, but I've got to hire somebody else to do his work. And therefore I'm doubling up this wage. So I think you have to have those like fundamental policies in place, because it can protect people and your business. But then you have to have this nice mix of those, I guess, tangible rewards that people can access now and feel like they're getting more from their employer.
And so what does a kind of a more progressive or an effective approach look like? When you see organizations getting it right, what are they doing?
I think that when it comes to the benefits that you put in place, that like the market now is very much focused on preventative healthcare, like improving your health and well-being of your workforce, and rightly so. Like it's a great mission to try and aspire your benefits to do. I think the issue with a lot of well-being initiatives is they fail because someone might go out and buy a product or solution and go, hi guys, we've got this new app, off you go, well-being ticked. And I think the biggest issue with that is that number one, you're not going to get the return on investment you want from the money you're spending on your benefits. Number two, people will forget about it eventually. And number three, you therefore don't have the impact you were trying to address the first instance, which was obviously well-being and that sort of thing. I think what people miss is creating that, like, and this is obviously comes back to what we were talking about before we hit record, just around like, I know HR wear a lot of hats, but really for well-being to work, you need like your leadership to have bought into it. You need your exec team to be showing behaviors that you want your workforce to then, I guess, take on and feel safe doing so at work. You know, if it means like, you know, if you're trying to get people to go out for a walk at lunch, then that means your exec team needs to go out for a walk at lunch and invite colleagues, do walking meetings. Like, it has to be embedded. Otherwise, you know, the real issues that you're trying to address won't really happen.
But does that happen? This is my cynic coming out again. I never worked specifically in comp and bends. I always had generalist roles, but where I was responsible for benefits and for renewal of insurances or looking at potential new benefits to bring in, my leadership teams were never interested beyond how much is this going to cost me. And once they'd given me a yes on cost, they never got involved with it again. And I'm realizing now that that's probably where a lot of these things went wrong, because it really does make a massive difference, doesn't it? So do you see, are there organizations outside of the industry that I worked in where leadership teams are genuinely taking an interest, setting that example and those sorts of things? Please tell me it happens.
I would say I see it a lot more in younger companies, as in like a startup, or like these businesses that have only been around for 5 or 6 years, where it's a different working environment to some of those like large corporates and bigger, older organizations that have been doing things for a certain way for so long, or have a lot more red tape. And that's the shift I've seen, is just around startups are much more flexible working places. They really encourage like behaviors that we know can support well-being overall, aside from benefits. This is just in general. And then I would say the opposite end of that is these older, bigger companies where, I'm not talking thousands of people, but, a few hundred people, they've been running for a very long time. It's very hard to create behavior change in exec teams and in leadership and those bits, I think, to really drive. But hopefully that's changing. The longer we keep banging the drum, it does change, because there are a lot of more studies and a lot more bits of evidence out there now to suggest that companies that do invest in the health and well-being of their workforce do perform better as a business. So hopefully it's something that will change. But I do hear the cynic in you.
I hate it when I hear that kind of thing come out of my mouth, because it does sound so negative. But I can only base it on my experience. I did work for a couple of smaller startups, and they were trying to be a bit more creative with what they offered people, including things like, because the last corporate that I worked for was a small startup, and that was post COVID. And so they were doing some really cool things around allowing people to work from wherever they wanted in the world, up to a certain number of days, that kind of thing. So that was seen as a massive benefit to people. And I've seen companies introduce the 4-day week. Only with success, actually. I've seen companies do it. It's not a benefit as such, it's a working style, but people saw it as a benefit. They were quite happy to do their week's work in 4 days and have their Monday or Friday free. That seemed to work very well for people. But not so much the older folk, who were just like, but I work Monday to Friday, that's what I do. But it seemed to be something that the younger generation really appreciated.
And it's exactly like what we're talking about, because even like the working from anywhere policy, it on paper, that's great, right? You could say, you could, go to Spain, go to Portugal, and work and explore these places. But for me, I've got 2 kids, so 6 and 4. It's not going to happen.
You're not going to do that, are you? No, exactly that.
You're finding like these benefits that might appeal to some, but then might get some people saying, well, that's not going to benefit me. So what about me? Blah, blah, blah. So it goes back to that point of,
coming back to me now, there was a real trend. Oh God, it must have been like early 2000s, like maybe up to 2010, where people had, what was the expression they used for it? Where you had an allowance and you could choose. It was like a sort of, there was an expression for it. Sorry?
Flexible benefits.
It was as simple as that, wasn't it? Is that still a thing, out of interest? Because I feel like it got really popular for a while, and then I stopped seeing it quite so much.
I would say 10 years ago, it was like the future of employee benefits. And there are still a lot of, I think there are still a lot of smaller companies who think that's where they need to get to. I remember when I first started in my industry, I was working for a big German multinational insurer, and we had a flexible benefits platform, and I was 25-ish at the time. And I remember logging into it for the first time and thinking, wait, I can take my life assurance completely out, take out my private medical insurance and get more money. I was like, yeah, I'm doing that. Like, I don't need these benefits. And that's how my experience with it. But what we see with a lot of organizations is that they can get these flexible benefits platforms, which aren't cheap. They give employees choice. So they could say, move your insurances up and down and all that sort of stuff. But the take up is really low. You would maybe get 5% of your workforce would change it. So then it goes back to that point around like, is this actually giving people what they want? And I think thankfully now there's a lot more out there in terms of providers who are offering something slightly different, but still offering like that choice element. So providers who, people still have that pot of money, but the choice on which you can then spend that pot of money is not insurance related at all. It's vast. It's, you've got choice on stuff that can improve your well-being to, it could be anything, but and that's where we're seeing a lot more popularity nowadays, I think.
It's interesting, isn't it, how it changes and how things become popular and then drop out of fashion again. Buying extra holiday was one for a while as well that people loved. But then you've always got people, the unlimited holiday thing was a kind of fad for a while as well, wasn't it? But So
with unlimited holiday, I was just going to say, with unlimited holiday, what you tend to see is people take less holiday than they would if they had a limit, because they just...
I wouldn't. I never understood those people that I work with that were like, I've still got 15 days holiday left and it's November. I'm like, why? What's wrong with you? I used my 25 days every single year that I ever worked. The only time I would carry we were allowed to carry over in some companies. The only time I would ever carry over is if I knew I had a big holiday coming up the following year. But I always thought it was like, you have to take that time. You can't. 100%. It was always very important to me. And I never understood that kind of like pride in, I haven't taken any sick days. I haven't taken any time off. I'm like, bully for you. What did you get for that? Did somebody put an extra note on the end of your salary? Or, it doesn't get you anywhere. It's like, if you're sick, don't come to work and take holiday because you need the rest. It's pretty straightforward. But for anybody watching this who is either in a leadership role or working in HR, what do you think is one shift that they could make that would genuinely improve this for their organization, their approach to this, to the benefits?
So I think the benefits landscape is tricky because I'm under no illusion that for smaller companies, budgets are tight. For larger companies, there's a lot of red tape and you might already have a load of stuff in place. I think the one thing that you could probably do that would impact how your company runs is spend a bit of time or get providers to come in or someone like me to come in and educate your line managers on the outcomes and impacts of benefits. So i.e., so I've got this big thing of, I think the biggest organizational shift anyone can ever do is helping and supporting and training those line managers, the people who are like front line to your employee. And I think the same applies to employee benefits. And I'm not saying they need to know the ins and outs of how a pension scheme works, but what they do need to know is, if I can see one of my employees is really stressed or is really struggling with something at home, can I signpost them to something in our benefits package to help them straight away? Like, is there something that I can do? And maybe it's just creating a crib sheet for managers to say, I've got a stressed employee, there's a number you can call, there's a GP you can talk to, there's this service here, and it's just about saying, listen, I can see you're stressed, I can see you're having a hard time, don't feel afraid to reach out. I might not be trained to deal with what you're going through, but we do have support here, there, and everywhere. And I think that's it's not that hard, because hopefully you can have somebody come in and do it for you. I'm not saying the HR team need to go out and do all this, spend all this time. You can get somebody in to do it for you, but that can have an impact. I think helping your line managers help your employees get access to the benefits they need when they need them. I think that's hopefully an easy thing people can implement that can have a lot of impact.
I would agree. And I do. It's funny. I find it so interesting that the solution to nearly every workplace problem is communicate better and train people to do that. It is the solution to so many things, and yet it still seems to be such a gap. So for those of you watching this, I'm really interested to hear whether what Adam and I have talked about reflects what you're seeing in your own organizations, or are we missing something? Are you finding that it's working completely differently for you? Please, pop a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, pop a comment below, because we would love to hear what you think as well. But Adam, thank you so much. first one of these conversations that I've done. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to love these because I'm genuinely so interested in how organizations work and the problems that they're facing and how people are out there looking to solve them. So if anybody wants to get hold of you and learn some more about what you do and what Wingate does, what is the best way for them to find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Adam G. Bell, because obviously there's a lot of Adam Bells if you start searching on LinkedIn. Or you can go to our website, which is wingatebs.com.
Brilliant. Adam, thank you so much. And I will be back very soon with another one of these conversations. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Kirsty.